it's funny, when I've overcome certain character defects, and I think in the past I thought that they would never come back, right? But they do, and it's okay. And I have that awareness today that they just come back sometimes, and it doesn't mean like I don't even look at it as relapse so much as like, okay, this isn't fun, and I already know this place. What I can appreciate is um, I can move out of it and shift back into where I need to be or where I want to be. Ideal to be a lot faster because of experience with it. So when we have experience overcoming aspects of our character defects that can show up in this space again, it's a lot easier to identify, forgive, and move forward with a new way of showing up in the world, with a new attitude and outlook on things.
Welcome to the Somatic Pleasure Podcast, where the body is the teacher and sensation is the path. I'm your host, James Humecky. This is a space where breath slows, skin listens, and we enter the raw, unfiltered currency of intimacy, desire, and embodied truth. This space isn't sanitized, it's real. Some of what we touch on may be explicit and not suitable for children. So, if you're ready to feel all of it, come on in. Hey there, and welcome back to the Somatic Pleasure Podcast. And today I have the grand honor of getting to interview Michele Garcia, who is the founder of Cielo Sober Center, right? Is that what it's called? I just want
Cielo
to make
Sober
sure.
Living, yes.
Sober Living, yeah, which is a sober house in Cathedral City, actually, but Palm Springs, California. And she's been doing this for quite a while. And Michele, you started your sobriety journey, back in the early 90s, right?
Yeah. Yes. My original starting date was, in fact, 1991. I think I was in my early 20s then. So, yeah. And then 15 years now working in this field that I've done. Yeah, I've done a lot of different fun stuff in this industry and in my life, basically, because I just like to recreate my life.
Well, yeah, you ended up in the desert from, wasn't it, Malibu? Yeah.
Yeah, well, I was in Malibu 4.5 years working in the field there in treatment, going back to school to get a master's in spiritual psychology over there in Santa Monica,
Mm.
for just because I wanted to work more with the client care rather than business development, which is also super fun and exciting and still a part of how I operate. But um, I love to share in relationships and building them, but I also love the healing aspect. So I wanted more skill set in that. And so
Mm.
that helped me launch my first treatment center. And I was in Tarzana before I came here exactly. So I had opened the actual last women's 6-bed residential holistic treatment center in Tarzana, California. Then I had an aftercare program in the next town over, Encino, in a really sweet neighborhood, 12-woman 2-story estate. It was really sweet on Ashley Oaks. And then the other one was near Reseda Park. And I loved it. I actually licensed it up and running for my final for my USM project. So they say co-create with spirit your heartfelt dream. So some people wrote a book for children, some people, hiked to a top of a mountain and had spiritual experience and wrote a story. And you have to do all these specific things for the final and write out a business plan, a spiritual business plan of action, which was really instrumental in staying organized, is what I've learned. And obviously helping you create the task at hand and manifest your heartfelt dream. So that is actually what I got to do before I came out here to the desert. And boy, has this been an interesting journey.
Well, I mean, and my own personal experiences with, getting sober, many, many years ago, and the shifts in life. So I want to hear more about that too. I
Okay.
wanted to make one little comment about um, the having to write out a business plan. So often people that are in sort of the self-help healing
Hmm.
spiritual realms, right, are also just like clueless about business.
It's a
I think
fountainhead. It's
that
that
is
female
fantastic. I was
energy we
just
want
thinking
to
that is
create.
fantastic. What a way to
I look at it, James, like, we have the female energy that wants to create, right? It's the creative energy, a lot of
Mhm.
sacral energy, right? Wants to create. It's beautiful. It's so instrumental to making new things come into fruition. But we need the masculine energy in alignment with that to organize those thoughts
Mm,
and put them out there and actually allow them to have the
yeah,
validity and the discipline and structure to it may need to really manifest, because you can't just be a fountainhead of ideas and be like, "Pff," and then hope maybe, just maybe it'll organize right. It's like organization is so key. And if there's even a step in the 12 step, the sixth step, or no, I'm sorry, the eighth step, where you actually just write a list of the things. It's like a shopping list. You don't go to a market without a list first, or you're just going to, especially when you're hungry, right? Because you just buy everything,
right.
right? So it's like so key to, it's same concept essentially. We got to
Right.
be organized with our thoughts, our ideas, our action steps that help us. I even do that in therapy, action steps. We exchanging old ideas for new ideas. And now what are some tangible action steps that help us, to get into alignment with what we want to
Right.
be, see, feel for ourselves.
You know, Michelle, I before we go any further, I really want you to, if you can, I'm sure you can, I know you can,
Okay.
explain when you say the field or this field of work so that people have a better understanding of not just what
Um,
you are doing, but what you're talking about in whatever it is, the recovery, the spirituality, the studies that you've done.
okay. Yeah. No, I know how I say that loosely. So first, I'll say when I first got sober, I was at a women's treatment center, right? And it was one of those state ones, nothing fancy. They didn't have those then. And one of my counselors unfortunately died because she was so focused, they said, too much on her work and not enough on her recovery. And some people mesh the two as one. They're like, oh, well, I'm helping people all day. I don't need to do meetings. I don't need to help people. I don't
Mm,
need to do this or that, which is so the opposite. In fact, you need to do more of your personal program of action to create more of your whatever your work life may be, even if your work life is in alignment with helping people and recovery, because it's just totally a different realm of growth that happens within us and a different kind of empowerment that it gives. And there can be no monetary attachment to the personal recovery kind. It's very pure in its essence, right, James? Like
mm.
it's just an avocation, my gift to humanity, right? Clean, pure, and that is what is. And it also helps me remember what to do to keep doing it. Because when we teach, reciprocally, we get back. Then I decided to wait because I was inspired at that time to work in the field of recovery, helping people, you know, maybe as a counselor, I was thinking, or like a guide or like a therapist. But I mean, so I knew I was inspired by this work then, early on. But I did actually take heed to what I heard. And I thought, they said, you really want to be strong in your recovery before you think about doing that. So you know what? I opened a clothing store on Melrose. I had a fashion line. I did a lot of neat and fun stuff. I worked in Vegas. I saved money to open that first store. Um, I did a lot of fun stuff with my life that was very exhilarating and very about um, empowering myself to be not reliant on anyone for financials. As a woman, I
Mm,
thought that was a really key thing for me to do. And I got to do that. And then I got to do that. And then I thought, I need more than that. Like $72,000 at that time, at that age, was a lot saved. And I wanted to invest in something. And I also had hit a turning point in my other personal recovery in CEA, How 12 Step Program, which is like for food abstinence from white flour, sugar, and salt, and then way of measuring my food and really having a different relationship with food and my body, essentially, and
Mhm.
learning how to really do the healing work in and around my using as it related to my body and releasing that and learning how to heal my body and love my body unconditionally of where I was at. That is so key for me. And so it's
Well, I
still
mean, just, the things all go hand in hand, don't they, Michelle?
a
The
hundred percent, a hundred
recovery
percent.
from substances, and then the financials and the
You know
food. I
what?
mean, it's
You know
so
what?
much part of the same thing.
Yes, but it took me what I'm sharing, I think it was 5.5 years sober to really release some of the
Mhm,
more monetary gain type of actions I was taking and move into a more humanitarian gain type
mhm.
actions. Became more of a concerned with, you know what, like, okay, now I have all this money and I have all this. What else can I do with my life? Like, I want more fulfillment. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? So it became more and more humanitarian based, more about like, how can I make a difference? Because I was feeling fulfilled from that. So, to be honest, it's selfish because I wanted to feel good. And I feel good when I have the opportunity to help other people with my skill set. So, and that's also why my skill sets became so important to continue to improve, even in my 40s, going back to a university for a master's program is
Mhm.
sometimes, even if when I was going back at first to junior college, even my counselor said, "Oh, my older students are even more focused. Are you kidding?" Because I was concerned. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I'm old. How am I going to
Right.
do this?" They're like, "No, no, no, no." And she was right. I was top of my class. I never knew I loved learning so much, James, so much as when I got so blessed to have amazing teachers who really loved what they taught about, which was teaching. And I learned about cohort groups. I learned about so many behavior. I learned about because I was going to school to be a teacher for children at first. Well, I loved
Wow.
it. And my teacher was a PhD at a junior college who was amazing. And she was so spiritual in the way that she taught. She would often teach about it's not about just delivering a bunch of information, having your class memorize it, and then regurgitating it back. It is about forming groups like you did in kindergarten. We're bringing that
Mm.
back to colleges now because we have learned that the best businesses are built on formulating answers in a cohort group setting, right? Where people brainstorm ideas and then come up with a good answer. It is so much
Mhm.
more enriching and inclusive. You mean with this world, when we operate from a frequency of contracted, right? It doesn't serve us or being in our oh so independent. Really, we are meant to be interdependent. Really, we are meant to socialize. You laugh. So we
No, no,
want to
I mean, just I'm
expand.
that's in agreement because
I know you get it, right?
I
Like
so
you
get that, yeah.
expand our consciousness, expand our thoughts, expand our ideas, expand our open-mindedness to new
Mhm.
ideas, and then allow yourself to come up with what's in the highest good for all, not just for you, for all. And then
Mhm.
that allows some super high frequency stuff to come into play. And I mean, that's what we want, right? Like
Right.
they say that teamwork is a dream work. It's so true. And I think, too many people are like, "Oh, I'm gonna be independent." That's cool. I read a book in college. It was about interdependence versus codependence, but it's also not about independence.
Right.
It's about that it's like a sweet spot, right? Like
Mhm.
I'm not it's because if we're all one, think about the omnipresent field. We talk about that with sound healing I do and the healing work when I get into that realm of who I show up as and how I get to serve humanity. It's so spoke to, but how do I really live that, right? Like because it's not enough to speak that into existence. How am I embodying that for real? And that for me, it's like by integrating workshops and I have a sober house that I own here, and I put together that's very holistic because we do just that. We do just the things that I learned when I was
Mhm.
like in junior college. Like nothing was a waste, James, in
Yeah.
the education. I really want to stress that. No matter if you were interested in something, learn it because I have a feeling whatever it is you learn, no matter what, will be of value in your life. It will not.
Absolutely.
It's not like I needed to go be a teacher for children, small children, for me to get the blessings from what I learned even if it were just the act of the discipline of being in school and learning and integrating whatever it is, newness, it's allowing me to add value to my skill sets, and I want a sharp, good skill set so that I can be of value to the community that I've now have. I have a 12-person sober house. That's part of the field that I work in. When I say that, I mean like treatment and recovery. I've worked in that 5.5 years in Malibu. Primary care means in the beginning stages, detox, the initial introduction to treatment, which really should be about 3 months, not a month, because a month, my gosh, you're barely just waking up to knowing even what meds might be good for you, because
Hmm.
so many of the initial detox symptoms can mimic bipolar, can mimic schizophrenia. You do enough meth, it will mimic schizophrenia. And you don't
I've
necessarily
seen it
need to get
personally. I know that
diagnosed.
one.
You get a label on that, though, it's hard to get off it because
Right.
doctors be like, they told me, and I did meth back in the day because I thought that was a great weight loss drug. Little did I know. I was
Michelle, there's so many threads in you've been
okay.
educating us deeply right now, and there's just
Oh,
so many threads that I'm interested in and want to pull on a little bit. So I'd like to ask you a couple of questions here, and one of the things is that you're talking about the personal growth and the spiritual growth and coming into community. And you know one of the things that you talk about in some of your literature and on your website is this idea of the loving essence, the seeing the soul before the story. And I'm imagining that when you're looking at the people that you're working with, that you're seeing them beyond the addiction, beyond the illness, beyond where they are at that point. And then another thing that I feel like is actually related, maybe it's not, but to me it is that, forgiveness is medicine, and specifically shifting from this sense of brokenness into this a
okay.
sense of wholeness, or remembrance, is why I look at it anyway. That, forgiveness is for me because it helps me remember my wholeness. And then
Mm,
that will go out into the world when
that's
I
right.
can actually do that. And that's true
Mhm.
forgiveness, not just like I forgive you. That's not, to me, is but anyway, with those couple of things, and then how you
Yes.
roll that into working with folks that are in recovery.
Right.
And then I would, at some point, I want to dive more into your sound healing and your your work. You're living in the desert, and how that environment works with you. But let's stay on that other track here.
Okay. So great questions, James. Wow. That brings me to my memories of USM, University of Santa Monica's master's program in spiritual
Mm.
psychology. So what I learned there is to see the loving essence. Um, so much of the work I was trained in, 555 hours, 50 hours of practicum, is about soul centered work. It's about seeing the loving essence, and it's about doing some neutral observing. It's about asking open ended questions. It's about answering those questions so that I can be clear enough to do the work with others, continuing. Um, and if I were to listen to everyone's story, I may or may not create a stigma or a judgment call without even noticing, right? Just on a subconscious level of some story that connects to something that makes me think something. And really, that doesn't afford the person that I get to work with that's come to me for help the optimal opportunity for healing of the, as you beautifully put it, remembering who we really are, because truly, when we can remember who we are, and truly, I believe we are at true essence, divine love. And, the walls and the fears and the stories can put up walls that we think protect us and may actually for a minute, but they don't really serve us in being in our full scope of
Damn it.
awesomeness. What?
Just that, we can't just keep live behind the walls and be okay.
We
You're
could, but the
you're
problem
breaking
with
my.
that Yeah, no, the problem with that though is, we're not living our best life.
Yeah.
We're not living our fullest potential. We're not experiencing the full scope of our essence and all of our senses. You talk a lot about somatic therapy. That's one of the modalities I'm trained in. Um, somatics, like, where do I feel it in my body? How do I
Hmm.
really tap into that if I've got all these walls up and I'm not in tune with where I am, in fact, feeling it in my body? If I'm feeling it in my calves, that's more than likely my family stuff, right? So I can
Hmm.
tap into that and I can go, okay, where is my first memory? And really work with some issues and allow myself to heal. And I think one of the most absolutely magnificent steps in the spiritual psychology work, and I integrate it into my sound healing sometimes when I'm feeling called,
Hmm.
at the process group, because I always do a process group after. I can't do a sound bath without doing a process group after. So, and I do those weekly at my center and for other centers and for conferences and for AA conventions and anyone, anywhere, spas, all kinds of fun stuff. So, when you do the process group, I'll say, what was your experience like? And then what's your intention? But we'll add, we can all do this now. You close your eyes, hold your heart, repeat
Hmm.
after me. I forgive myself. And then everyone would echo back, I forgive myself for any judgments. And then they would echo back for any judgments I have made on myself. Because the
Hmm.
truth is, I'm doing the best I can with where I'm at. Then I would guide people to really visualize, because visualize is so empowering. Your inner child. What does that look and feel like within you? How do your hands emanate this healing vibration onto that inner child and allow them to glow and feel uplifted and fueled with the light and unconditional, compassionate loving you're capable of bringing in? This is so empowering. This is not
Hmm.
relying on outside sources to
Right.
fuel my healing. This is my capacity teaching your capacity to do this for your own self. And you can be very specific when you do it. That was a very general. If you're doing nightly inventories or a review of your day, how could I have done better without drifting into remorse or judgments that take you downward spiral? It's just kind of like, how could I? Well, okay, what could I have done better? But then also adding to that some compassion, suffering. I forgive myself for, buying into the belief that I'm not enough because maybe I did something and I can tell that I did a thought
Hmm.
about not being enoughness in that, and I was in my lack rather than my abundance, right? So, and because the truth is, I'm doing the best I can with where I'm at.
Right.
And I'm willing to do more today. That's the thing, is we're willing to grow. It's
Right.
not just leaving it at that. And when we do it about others, like I forgive myself for judging so and so for being, not the way I would have liked. And you can be very specific
Right.
because this is your inventory work. No one can be as specific as you. Your therapist can't even be that specific
Right.
unless they're doing it with you in that moment and know what exactly you're working on. But and you can do that. You can be, the more specific you are with prayer, and this is a form of speaking to God. Anytime I'm speaking to God, it's a form of prayer, right?
Right.
Anytime I'm listening, meditating, listening, meditating is about listening to God. The conversation with God, that was the speaker. The guy who wrote Conversations with God was a speaker at our graduation at
Hmm.
UCLA for USM graduation. And I love it. I think that the conversation with God is just that. It's you're speaking the prayer out, asking the questions, maybe advocating, maybe whatever it is, you're speaking that to your God conscious, whatever that looks like, right? And then you're listening in for if you do one without the other, it's just those conversations where people are just talking at you or not listening for the answers or listening but not asking the questions. Ask
Hmm.
God, ask for answers. It may not show up in a whisper, but it may show up in a sign as I move through the day, or a action that I notice and I'm more aware of now because I'm in the
Yeah.
asking. I'm in the really seeking God's answers
Right.
for my highest good. And you'll know, like, as you practice, intuition is something we build. Third eye is so acutely aware of your highest good, and that's your God-seeing eye, as I see it, like the portal to knowing that which is free from judgment, free from it's just what's in the highest good, as I see it. And it's that knowing that, it's like that sixth sense. That's what.
So, again, just so much going on there. There's something that
Okay.
I want to roll back to a little bit,
Yeah.
because I mean, there's going to be a lot of people that aren't knowledgeable necessarily about a 12-step
Okay.
program and an inventory process. That's
Okay.
one piece that I want to kind of maybe get a little more depth on. And then, this
Okay.
idea of listening for the answer. And, I know that in my work, this is just a perspective that I'm coming from at the same thing, right? When I talk about sensation based awareness is a deep listening. Your
Uh-huh.
body knows what's happening. It's reading, it's pulling in information, it's processing, but the way to hear that is to stop and listen, right? Listen to the body,
Yes.
and it's not a cognitive process. It is very much a visceral, generally nonverbal, sensate process.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So yeah, help people understand kind of what an inventory process is like, whether it's related to recovery or not, because it's still a very important thing. And then how to I mean, you've been walking through like how to listen, but I want to go dig a little bit deeper into that. And then I want to go into like your sound healing, because that is part of that process. Through that frequency, we get more understanding, we get more visceralness of that conversation, the
I
sensate
think
language. That's
I
where I land.
agree. Thank you for that. Yeah. Yeah. All right. So it would take me
Inventory.
quite a while to explain all the steps, but it's hard to talk about inventory without mentioning the prior steps because each one prepares you for that one. Or, ultimately 10 step is 9 steps altogether, which is inventory, daily
Right.
inventory, right? So it's like all of that. So like if I go through a course of a day after I've, admitted defeat around whatever it is that I'm finding is becoming an obstacle to my connection with God, be it food, sex, um, shopping, drugs, alcohol. It's all like about spiritual fit conditioning. It's all about getting spiritually fit so that nothing comes before your
Mhm.
relationship with Creator. So to me, that surrender to a process that may help you get more in align and heal in some areas, right? After doing the inner work, because that's really what it is. And the second step is about trusting in a process
Right.
and that you could be restored to sanity because insane is doing the same thing, expecting a different result. And sometimes we do get something of a different, but it's like blue, it's green, it's red, but it's not a different circumstance, like we want. And so to be able to come to realize that, and come to believe that there may be some way of really getting to evolve because ultimately at the end of the day, what do we want to do? We want to
Yeah.
have new experiences. How do you do that? You actually find the pearl of wisdom in the lesson that you were getting so that you can get the next one. So you're ready for it, right? Because you can't
Hmm.
learn something new unless you learn the first thing, right? Then the third thing would be surrendering your will and life over to the care of something, anything bigger than you. So I'm not God. I got to stop playing God. God either is or is. So whatever your concept, even if you're atheist, it's like come up with a something that you can connect to or feel into that's supportive to you. But
Hmm.
people, places, and things are so impermanent, so that they're not good choices to make it a thing or a person, but just more. I think of it more like an energy that flows in every life force energy. I mean, there's no life without godliness, right? Like gods, whatever you want to call it. I mean, my mom's Jewish. My dad's Catholic. I'm considered Jewish, but I've studied some of the spiritual aspects, of it, but I got to AA and I recreated a concept that was all inclusive, never exclusive, that was unconditionally loving, that was all of the things, make it anything and everything that you would ever want. And that, yeah, because you can't be what you're not. So if God made us in his image and you want that image to be, I don't know what you want it to be, but it's up to you to create that. And I did that, and I think for me to, like, as I grow, my concept even widens and broadens, so, you may find that you start with something just, whatever, and then you build on it as you really realize, "Wow, this is, like, pretty massive and amazing," and, when I connect to that, I'm so inspired, and I'm so in the flow, and I'm not fighting anymore, and I'm that kind of movement happens for you. Then fourth step, of course, would be writing out all of the things that you remember we talked about those blocks and those walls, writing those out, like the persons
Mhm.
and institutions that he, harmed and kind of making that list. It's like a grocery list. Like my mom and my dad, and then like number one because of this, and number two because of this, and all the reasons, right? And then back on the third column would be like, so it's the cause. Then it's like, okay, now we have to flip the switch and go, well, where might, just might I have been these questions, right? Selfish. You
Where
laugh.
might I have been at
Where
least
might,
partially
might,
responsible for
maybe,
this?
just maybe. Don't look at them. Just look at your part because the only
Right.
thing I can change is me, right? I can't
That's a
change
hard
people,
one, I
places,
tell
and
you.
things. That will definitely keep me in sanity, um, and wasting energy foolishly.
Yeah.
So selfish, self-seeking. So selfish is the things selfish the things I'm thinking that are just about me, me, me. And then self-seeking is the things that I'm doing that are selfish. Then the dishonest can look like lying by omission. That's still a lie. And then there's cash register dishonest, like you straight up took
Right.
shit that wasn't yours. So those are the kind of like, and then, later you get to do a fear inventory. But when you look at those parts, you're taking responsibility for your part.
Mhm.
You're responsible. You're growing up. Oh my God, I'm not a big baby wanting everything to go my way anymore. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm actually becoming more mature. And now I'm being given the capacity to know myself so well, no one can even poke fun at me without me being able to laugh about it. Cause like I know myself. I know I'm willing to work on that stuff later. Like you are
Yep,
working
you're
on it.
right.
You
That's
can't
where
touch this. Like it's
that's
like
what I do.
it doesn't mess with me that much anymore. Like, and if it does, it's like, okay, where what's going on there? I get to look
Right.
at because it's always like a mirror, isn't it? And
Mhm.
actually, the fear inventory is really, really deep because I think every self-centered fear is at the core of it's the crux, it's the gray hair, it's the root. You want to get the self-centered fear. Like, okay, so what am I really afraid of? So what
Mhm.
something am I gonna lose something? Is it something I don't have? So that's really what fear inventory is about. And then a prayer that they give you that God, please remove my fear of financial insecurity and direct my attention to the woman you would have me be. God, please direct, uh, remove my fear of, and you go through every single one of the fears you've identified from that inventory list that you made. Nice little shopping list lets you know, like what's what. And then that's like core work if you think about it. Because really, fear is at the root, like I said, of every one of our resentments.
Yeah.
Ultimately, those inventories are fun because you can look at the character defects that come out of those behaviors. And when you do 6 and 7, you can write a list of what they are and how you might like to practice opposite of that. Like if I'm being jealous or if I'm being, you know, um, any of the character defects that can come up for you, whatever they are, you
One of
want
the
to
big ones
practice.
for me has always been like an arrogance, like, "I can do
Ooh,
this by myself. I don't need anybody
I don't
else."
need
Or,
you.
or like,
Yeah.
I'm
Don't
okay.
you
I
know
don't
who I
need
think
any."
I am, James?
That's
Oh,
me.
okay. Okay. Yeah, that's a good one to work with. So
Yeah.
what would be the opposite of that?
Oh, humility, like
So,
humbling
mhm,
myself to the, other perspectives and other people that can maybe have
I
a
love it. Yeah.
bigger objective opinion, and
So that's
and
good stuff.
understanding that I'm not the thing that's making all of this, no matter how great I think I am. I mean,
I was
there's
looking up humility, James, and it's defined really as to remain teachable.
yeah,
And so
beautiful.
also, which you
Yeah.
touched on. And then it's also like right sized is another way of looking at it. Not better than, not less than. Think about how comfortable we feel in our skin when we're right sized. It seems like
Mhm.
it seems like you could be with any demographic, anybody, and kind of just feel cool, like whatever, because you are not trying to be better than or less than. It's so much less work to just be who you be.
Well, I have been beaten into submission around that one, I gotta tell you, many times in my life,
That's some of the
And
best growth.
the process that
Takes
you're
it.
describing too with that, that well, the first big, we're talking specifically about a 12-step program, which I think is a valuable tool for anybody, whether you're, in alcohol or, substance recovery or not. But that
Absolutely.
initial inventory that is guided with, in this case, a sponsor or a good friend or a counselor, whatever it is, and being able to really, pull away those layers of the arrogance, of the self denial, of the, all of these different things. And then, because what you were talking about a little earlier, was more of the what comes later, that daily inventory, that
Mhm.
moment to moment listening into that,
True.
and
Right.
it's just but you kind of have to have, it seems like, right? You have to have that initial ripping apart,
I got to
to
tell you,
to
I'm
be able
listening
to
to
be
you.
able to
I'm
have
listening
that
to you.
piece.
And I'm thinking how many times I had to be beaten into submission to do an
Right.
inventory on certain matters, And I got to say, it's unfortunate that more people don't just grasp this when they're not, because, I think people have to be in a crisis practically to accept spiritual help or
Yeah.
to
A
go
lot of
about
times.
getting it. A
Mhm.
12 step is no joke. It takes discipline and work. Who wants to do that unless you are in a crisis and you absolutely have to? Who's gonna
Right.
go to call a Fitness center like, hey, like I do spiritual retreats for people who are already on the path. And it's great. But it's hard to get people who maybe never did one before to really want to do one. Maybe now there's a new movement in the world going on where people are becoming more health conscious. They want
Mhm.
to release weight. They want to let go. Like, cause we're an obese nation. Food is such a drug. People are eating like I can't. And it's a choice. I can't. But people are wanting to step up. And all you see on Instagram, TikTok are all these supplements that, I mean, it's just wild how many supplements are selling these days. And it's a
So,
lot
yeah.
because of a health movement after COVID that's kind of taking, for which I'm thankful for that. My mother was a hippie 60s yoga instructor that
Mine too.
only had no junk food in our house.
Serious.
No white flour, no salt, no sugar were allowed in the house.
Yeah.
But you know what? I had to reintegrate that later with the food program. And it kind of made sense for me to do that later because that was my foundation, thank God. You know what I mean? It felt right. Like I got it. Like there was no real big like, oh, I don't know about this. Like I know about this and I know it's a better way for me. Because basically those foods work like a drug in the body, right? So you're right. There's so many ways we can be um, numbing out, not really able to feel the full scope of who we are and what's going on
Mhm.
for us and live a fully high vibrational, vibrant life. And I'm not perfect. I think I'm like 80/20, and I think it's cool to be 80/20 because you got to give yourself some room to wiggle and, make mistakes. Because some of
Hey, don't
my
take the fun out of dysfunction, you know what I mean? Like,
So, I have people who won't come to me if I'm too perfect. You know what I mean?
right.
Like, if to them, I seem like, I can't tell her. She wouldn't understand. You know what I mean? Like, I have to be able to um, be in my perfectly imperfectness because there's what has I go through that is absolutely a spiritual being having all these human experiences. These human experiences allow me to be approachable, is what I'm saying.
Mhm.
To be
Yeah.
able to
Exactly.
get to pass on, maybe guide, maybe support that I can relate. I can relate. I've probably done everything you can think of. Like, I've lived sober most of my life, so I've made a lot of mistakes because I got sober young, and then I've had to restart my time and relapse and relearn, and
Mhm.
it's just so, I would love to save anybody time in some of the lessons, that, and my mentors have saved me a lot of time at times, so I get how valuable that can be because, it's hard to learn the hard way all the time. I don't wanna learn the hard way. I wanna learn easier. I wanna, like, be teachable, basically,
I
right?
wanna be yeah. Can I have a
Yeah.
do-over here? I was just thinking about that piece where you're saying, you wanna save people time, and, I think one of the reasons I know that I have gotten into the field that I've gotten into years and years ago is similar to that idea, is like, somehow or another, I could help relieve somebody's suffering, or at least the extent or the length of their suffering. What
Yeah.
I've come to actually is that I can't fucking do that at all for any I cannot relieve somebody else's suffering. The best that I can do is be an example, working with my own suffering, and show people a toolbox that they
Yeah,
can
but that's what
use.
I mean when I say
You
that.
know?
So let's not I'm not getting it twisted. I will reframe that.
No, I don't think you are either.
So
No, I know
I
exactly. I'm
I
just, like,
actually had to go
throwing in
to
my own.
Al-Anon. I had to go to Al-Anon, James, for that
Yeah.
because, I was trying to save a sibling and I only have one. And I was like wasting a lot of time. And I had to go to Al-Anon and let people have the dignity of their own bottom and learn that. And I
Oof.
think that was the best lesson I
Mm.
could have learned for the work that I get to do today in such a deep way, like literally working the steps again in and around that. Like, this
Mhm.
sense of it's a form of control, really. It's like really not serving me. And I think that it helped me become a kinder person because that program really
Yeah,
focuses on
yeah.
how to have healthy relationships. And it's more relational. It's not like putting down, once you put down the drugs and alcohol, it's like, okay, now how do I have healthy relationships? Now, how do I like not attract people who need help and just like healthy people? Now, how do I be a healthy person having a healthy
Now how do I not
relationship?
spiritual bypass and pretend like I've got it all together and everybody else
Oh,
doesn't? It's like, man. Well,
yeah. Oh, I haven't had. I've,
those are, um I mean, just how valuable that kind of experience and the depth of finding out, you know, and the choice to continue to do that, even when, you're getting bashed down or you're making mistakes or whatever, I mean, I just had a conversation with somebody the other day and I had to give them some tough love, you know what I mean? Just like some truth. And I said, the only way that I can actually say this to you with any kind of integrity is the
mhm,
fact that I have done that. I did that. I've had to go through
that
this
helps.
place of, being stripped of everything in order
Mm,
to get to some semblance of balance in my life, in my internal life, and ability to navigate my internal state and ride with the vicissitudes of life, and that's the only way I can say that to
mhm,
somebody. Otherwise, I need
mhm.
to shut my goddamn mouth. You know what I mean?
I really that's very sensitive of you and wise. I mean, and wisdom is really it's so valuable.
I have a quick question for you. Would you be against seeing this podcast reach more people who could really benefit from it? If you're still listening, the chances are you've already received some valuable takeaways. Subscribing literally takes like 5 seconds, but it seriously helps us keep these conversations going. It's how we keep bringing in the guests whose stories provide the depth that you've come here for. So yes, I'm asking you to join the team. Hit subscribe, like, and share with somebody you know. And let's grow this thing together.
You know,
But one of the
honestly,
things that you've
like,
talked about is your your relationship with the desert.
mm,
And how that has, the nature and the stillness I mean, I used to live out there where you live, and so I gotta have an understanding of that, and it's just like, what what for you is that? What does that bring for you?
Well, it's so healing. I actually came here after my treatment center separation with a partner I had. And there was a shaman that did breath work for my treatment center,
Mm,
and he had a 5 acre on Sky Valley. And he was hardly there because he was back and forth from LA. And he invited me to just go there and stay and he'd do some more breath work because that was super clearing for me. I love breath work. Oh my gosh. I ended up getting certified trained by Michael Baker in that because I loved it so much. But um, I had done one breath work where I had a huge cathartic clearing. I was like, good snots, crying the whole nine, right? I'm
I
like,
know
"Oh
the
my
I know
god,
the
what
I know
what
the space.
what was that?" Like, I didn't ha I like, I have no trauma, like, that I know of, and he was like, Michelle, sometimes, like, it can be past life stuff in our cellular body that we're really letting go of," and I was scared to do it again because it was so emotionally draining.
Yeah,
It's
right,
like
right.
and, I noticed, I mean, like, I noticed I was putting off, but when that center and she wanted what she wanted and all this, and I had to step away, um, because she wanted all for her, and, so I had 2% less shares, which I didn't know at the time, not a great idea when you're doing a business contract. Don't do
Mhm,
that. Do 50 or more if I can ever throw some business, advice out for partnerships. Protect yourself, and be have value for yourself. So I had 2% shares. I didn't think anything of it. I was not at all monetary focused at all, but you do have to learn. And I learned the hard way. And so, it didn't work in her favor in the end because she lost it. But and by the time she called me to beg me, to help and come back and try to pay me to, I'd already started a whole new center and created a whole new everything on my own without a partner. And I was in absolute and total forgiveness because I've prayed for her as I was reminded to do, even though I did not want to, and just act as if until it did feel into it. It really was in the forgiving. I really did actually forgave her and asked God to give her everything that I would want or more. Imagine that one.
mhm.
I could barely say it, you guys. Like it was like, oh my gosh, this is not authentic, but I'm going to say it until I did and feel it. And then I was like recreating my life so fast because I wasn't living in resentment for her. And then when she called me, it was a casual conversation. I wasn't bitter. I wasn't like, but I absolutely, look, you guys, forgive, but don't forget. If you forget, you're losing the wisdom in that lesson. That lesson taught me this is not a viable person or a trustworthy person to put the care of a client, no matter how much money she's trying to offer me per person I give. That's like body brokering, right? And in the hands of a person that doesn't even deserve, even if, like I would just give or have them as a resource. If she could do that to me, what would she do to a person that may just have this one window, one little chance to get their
Right.
life on track at a place that they're going to make and take a risk and invest in? So yeah, no. So I'd already moved on and I had a whole new only aftercare, not primary care anymore. But it's worked out nice for me. I don't have to have investors. I don't have to but I have learned to I formed a nonprofit, have people on my board later to attract healthier people and have that. So for whatever that's worth. But what I was getting at, it ended up being in Sky Valley because there was a big property nearby. The shaman where I was staying and doing the breath work and being in nature, being in the sun and going to meetings out here. And then there was like so many people with a lot of time because, well, people retire here. So there's a lot of people that are
Right.
older and hence they have a lot of time a lot of times. And there's a lot of it's like another mecca like Malibu was for treatment and recovery. So it was ideal for the industry of which I was
Mhm.
already, skilled in. And I'd already learned how to license places. So I licensed about 4 places for other people since I did it
Wow.
for mine, which why right I made like 6,000 each time. So I invest in my money. Plus I was working for a place in Wisconsin doing clinical outreach. And all that money together, I got my own beautiful 5-acre like castle of a house for my first sober house. Then I moved and bought a house to Cathedral City. It's like a 3-story house with 2-story casita. And literally, James, I have a magical story about that. I prayed for the perfect house for people to build a strong foundation of recovery. I was very specific. I was just intuitively in the water, in the ocean, Hollywood, Florida, at a conference. My dog just died. Somebody in my family relapsed, and I was praying for them to get sober for good this time. And then that prayer together in the water before going to the conference. After a meeting I just found that was across from me that I just ran into that just happened to be at the hotel across the way because it just happened to be a men's sober house that was having one with a big neon sign and couldn't miss it. And the guy named his sober house after his dog that he has, which my dog had just died, and that's all why I was left town because I kept seeing where my dog was everywhere, and I needed to grieve. And I was like, everywhere you go, there you are. Like it still comes up, right? You cannot run
Right.
away from what needs to be addressed. And I thought that was really cool and a beautiful way for this man to have a relation with his dog like that, and it just made me appreciate my relationship that I got to have with mine. And I now have another dog, but my brother the person I prayed for got sober and is doing amazing after that. And the first day back with a realtor, I found a house, the perfect house, this house to buy for a treatment. First day out shopping. And I mean, because like, where are you going to find a house that's like got 3 stories with a 2-story casita and a big property? And it was a crazy, amazing vaulted ceilings, which I loved.
Yeah.
No, I did not know air conditioning costs that much in this area, but it all works out in the wash. So anyway, a power prayer, right? Like
Yes.
really, I mean, and it was like a trifecta for me. I feel like, it always hits in threes for some reason. And they say that's a magic number. So, um,
Yeah.
you know, yeah,
Yeah,
it's crazy. Wow.
absolutely.
It's a wild ride. I
It
love I love my life. I love what I get to do. I keep looking for new ways to cultivate what my practices are, my program is here. Like what else? I integrated conscious recovery meetings, I integrate sound healing, I integrate whatever. And the desert's been responsive. People are pretty laid back. I went to New York for a vacation. It was on my bucket list, right? And people are so loud. It was right after COVID. I was so overwhelmed. I could not believe it. I thought, I'm from LA. Why am I getting so oversensitized right now?
Oh god.
But
Yeah.
there's a shift. There's a shift, a real
Mhm.
shift that happens for us living in such a calm and peaceful desert for the most part. It's like, and no traffic for the most part.
Well, that's something else that I wanted to talk to you a little bit about, or, ask you about, have you talk about actually,
Okay.
is the programs that you have at, Cielo. And, I know that we already mentioned your sound baths with the crystal
Yeah.
bowls, and I know you do
Mhm.
workshops and presentations, but you also are doing this with the residents at your center or your at the recovery house there.
Mhm.
How do you do that? How does that work? What's the give us the
So
good stuff there.
when I had that house in Sky Valley I was telling you about,
Uh-huh.
so when I had a treatment center, I had amazing sound healers come and bring sound healing, and my clients loved it. They always
Mhm.
kind of loved it the best. We always look forward to this. When does sound healing come? And I was like, okay, my friend Athena and Guy Douglas would do the most awesome, sound bath. I don't know if you know what sound bath you guys are, but
Absolutely is.
yeah, the gongs, the bells, the bowls. Gong has been known since BC, like just to clear on a cellular level, much like breath work, right? Any energies that don't serve us, you can really let them go, and you can be past life stuff that you're releasing is so cool. Just being open to that allows that. And people sometimes guttily cry, some people laugh. It's just like whatever. You go into REM state, and also the bowls are great for activating all of the energy in your body. We have 7 solar plexus of energy, and those can be, you know, um, stressed, if you put too much stress on your heart, too
Mhm,
much on your
mhm.
core, too much on your, even too much, in your crown, you're like, oh, you're way up here and you're not grounded with your root. That's not going to be working for
Yeah,
you. You want balanced energy. So what I
yeah.
love about the bowls, first of all, they sound angelic and they're lovely. I have one here right now. Um, I have so array of different sets I've acquired. At my first, um, and then there's other instruments I play, like the ocean drum. That's kind of everybody's favorite. It sounds like an ocean. It's very soothing. It's the least expensive, and everybody likes it the most. It's so funny, and it really just soothes. But the gong is like kind of
Yeah,
probably the
they
most.
do. They're wonderful. I know that's a
Yeah,
great
now, yeah.
sound.
And then I'm dying. Okay, so I have a wish list. I have a nonprofit, and if everyone wants to donate money, they can. to-
Right.
But it's like you'll see the hand of God, see that logo. It's Cielo Spiritual Foundation. So I formed the nonprofit to raise money for people to get treatment and recovery aftercare needs. I do scholarship people through my foundation, not necessarily through the money that I make, but because I have room in my home and I'll do it. And I just did two this last month that I scholarship, but I try to raise money to help that process. I do have a 12-bed place, so the nonprofit. So I really want to get a crystal harp, but they're like $900, but they are
Uh-huh.
so amazing. So my new hobby is collecting instruments and playing instruments for sound healing because I love it so much. And
Oh,
I do a process group after. I do it every week at this house. But like I said, I do it for events. I'll do it for, retreats. That nonprofit I talked about throws retreats with other facilitators from time to time.
mm,
I was doing them every month, but then I started this new podcast show called Inspiring Interviews. It's Cielo Spiritual Foundation Inspiring Interviews on my podcast. And like what I have found through that is less time to do my retreats. So, and then it was just slow a little bit. It's summer, you don't really want to throw a retreat. So it's getting season again, and I'm going to probably do another one, but those are super fun. And I end up lots of food. I'm doing an open house coming up next weekend here with sound healing and food. I love to feed people. If you know anything about me, I love healthy food and I love to share with people in that way. I
well,
feel like
that's
it's
another
very,
thread we're gonna pull on in a minute
yeah,
too,
yeah, it's nurturing. So the thing, so I got my first gong, um, when I had the house in Sky Valley. Then I started doing I started doing sound baths and morning meditation. And then I started having because then I wanted to travel for my events and different things. So I had my clients learn how to use my instruments. I'm not one of those healers that are like, don't touch my things, like touch it all you want. I want you to be empowered. Don't think I'm the guru. The guru is within all of us. Like, get with it.
Yeah,
Like, go ahead, lead a meditation. So everybody takes turns leading a morning meditation for 5
beautiful.
minutes every morning. And in the past, some people will do a sound bath even that are been here a while and can,
Mhm.
respect my instruments enough to play with all of them. But yeah, I mean, most of them are good with it. And it's so cool because they feel empowered and they realize not to be afraid of, like, they just naturally go up to instruments like it's like what's so, it's just what's so. It's not a big deal. They just help you. Like, I had a sponsor tell me once, like, all this mantra and this and that, that's ego. Like, really meditating is just be still, know you're God. Like, just kind of really feel into that godly, that space within
Mhm.
you anywhere. And yes, the instruments have the gift of giving healing aspects and allowing, especially people in early recovery, get there in a more inviting way. So I had mental health issues from meth when I first got sober in 91. I had doctors tell me, "You'll never be off your meds, Miss Garcia, based on your history." And I was like, "But I
Wow.
need to get, I can tell it's just the symptoms. What do you mean?" Like, and then I went to see this guru. She gave me a mantra, the hugging saint Amma. And you
I
know
got
what?
to see her, she was amazing.
Isn't she? She's just pure mother love. And I needed that and I wanted that and I got that and then I got that. And then I was so disciplined with her mantra that I literally I got released to all my meds forever, like since then. But that's my story. That's not for everyone. I have clients
Right.
here that, definitely diagnose and it does help them, but they're not on so many that they can't have any clarity. They've gotten off a bunch. just because they were on way too many, and that happens a lot of times, and so do these diagnoses. You are not your diagnosis. Those are just labels people put so they can prescribe you something to help you get off it, hopefully, or get closer to where you need to be. She's released some of my clients. She was on like way too many, and now she's a lot better. And, it's just about getting more spiritually fit to where I was willing to do the work, though, James. I was willing to use that mantra on a daily basis, no matter what. And now I advocate it and share it in all the different ways. Why? Because it saved my life. Like, not because um, I was born into this inspired notion that I should. I mean, there is that aspect to what happened, but like, it happened because I absolutely needed to do it for myself, like medicine. It is
Yeah.
my medicine, okay? So why
Well,
wouldn't I pass it on to other people so,
right,
they may or may not find it amazingly, your mind, it's where everything centers. Alcoholism in general, or whatever kind of spiritual malady you wanna label, not label, uh, it centers in the mind. So when we can get to a place where our mind gets the food it actually does need, it straightens out the body too. Because once you straighten out the spirit, the body and mind, they just follow. It just follows. Like everything is fluid. Spirit is the like root of it. If you try to treat the body without treating the spirit, it's going to snap back like a rubber band, bink, and you will not get longevity. So that has been my life experiences with people. That has been what I've seen for myself when I try, oh, just like exercise and just do this. But it doesn't sustain. It's not
right.
sustainable.
Well, um again, kind of going back a little bit, with the sound healing and how that, people pick up the instruments and, can we have a natural affinity to vibration, to frequency,
Yes.
to rhythm, and I'm there's one point that I'm not sure if I when people say everything centers in the mind, the way that I look at it is that everything is the mind. If we're talking about the organ of the brain, that's one thing, but the mind encompasses. And so, if you want to say spirit, body, mind, I mean, it is all one ecosystem. There really is no separation in it, right? That's my view. And
Hmm.
so, when we go into, and I've had some incredible experiences with sound baths, sound healing. And I remember the first time that I actually went into a gong session. And this guy, was highly trained, and he was just one gong, and all the different ways of doing it, whether you're sliding the mallet, or in tapping, or which part, and yada yada yada, you know what I mean? But it actually, um I mean, I have experience with psychedelics, and it was very much a psychedelic type experience. There was like an expansion, like the body became
Mm.
more amorphous, and and just, I don't know if I would describe it as joy, but like maybe a peace, a contentment that just dripped over me. That's the only way I can describe it, and that place where we have, I look at it from the lens of like transgenerational a memory, and that can be trauma, or it can be beautiful too, when we're carrying all of that DNA that has developed who we are. And the people that have done this for, thousands and thousands of years understand that, the beat, the rhythm, and frequency, and how that puts us back in touch on a more visceral, conscious level with everything that has brought us to what we are right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
just imagine that, how that work is so valuable in what you're doing in with your guests at the recovery home, and the I haven't made it to one of your sessions yet, but I will. I know that I will do that. One day all of our
I do
all of
love
our
doing
calendars will sync up.
I love doing it for professionals. I
Yeah.
just did a conference, um, and, conscious recovery meetings that we hold here holds a
Mm.
conference every year, and it was in Marina Del Rey, and it was for professionals that work in the field, and I gotta say, it's such an honor because, um, people need the healers need healing, you
Mhm.
know? Healers need healing. And I love what you shared, James. Thanks for all that. That was beautiful. I love that you've had those experiences. And I can appreciate what you're saying about mind bodies just automatically. You can't without the other. I think though, like on back on that, like I think I was just focusing so much on the physical. I wasn't being conscious, like
Right.
really allowing yourself to be make conscious decision and exercise the mind with meditation and be the like and really attune that pause and not be a reactive person that's impulsive.
Mhm.
That's what I mean by strengthening the mind, and it's, you can strengthen the body, but if you're not using the mind, uh, you know, it's just not gonna sustain the body
Well,
and
you
or
see that all the time with people that go into, like, extreme sports, it's more of not always, but a lot of times it's more of a it's almost like doing drugs because it's separating you. There's a way of, like, putting a wall up. It's a way of just, like, focusing on this one thing, you know, and it doesn't take into account the whole picture of who we are a lot of times, not always, but I've worked with a lot of athletes and I've seen it a lot.
yeah,
Where there's like, you know,
yeah,
you
yeah,
you'd
yeah.
think like somebody is so body oriented would actually understand what's happening in their body, like what the value of that is. I forget
You
what's
know
her name
what?
right now. She
I
wrote a book called The Joy of Movement, and man, she's spot on with that. It's that concept. It's really beautiful. Anyway, go
Yeah,
ahead, please.
I did breath work, going back to what you're saying about having experiences with,
Mhm.
the body. And one time I was receiving from 2 professionals in Sky Valley, and, my heart chakra started spinning, and that was the first time that I actually learned that they spin, actually, and she was like, "Oh my gosh," like, so I became so in tune with my internal that I actually was feeling the spinning in the heart opening, and it was
Exactly.
amazing. I mean, they're all spinning all the time. It's like the world is spinning, but we don't know it's spinning because it's spinning so fast, we don't know. So I guess the same with our energy solar plexus are spinning so fast we don't always feel them. But if you really, really and can tune in, and breathwork really allows that from happening. Um, it's pretty radical
Absolutely.
what you can I was like grieving and it's like joy. And joy is like for me, God within brimming out. So it's far beyond happiness, like it's just like joy shows up in a lot of different ways, but it is a beautiful thing. And I don't know. I don't know. What were we talking about before? I forgot.
We
I
we've
just
actually really
I
covered so
I
much,
just wanted
Michelle,
to
and, we're gonna have to start bringing this to a close,
yes, so
a but, I mean, we're not jamming it up
totally.
right now. But, as we sort of pull this together, what, have you actually experienced relapse, not with substances, but more especially with old emotional patterns and attachments? And
Oh my
if so,
gosh.
like, how did you move through it? What were the tools you used? And, you know
Yeah, that's a good question. So that happens, I think it's funny, when I've overcome certain character defects, and I think in the past I thought that they would never come back, right? But they do. And it's okay. And I have that awareness today that they just come back sometimes. And it doesn't mean like I don't even look at it as relapse so much as like, okay, this isn't fun and I already know this place. What I can appreciate is um I can move out of it and shift back into where I need to be or where I wanna be, where it's more
Mhm.
ideal to be a lot faster because of experience with it. So when we
Right.
have experience overcoming aspects of our character defects that can show up in this space again, it's a lot easier to identify,
Yeah.
forgive, and move forward with a new way of showing up in the world, with a new attitude and outlook on things.
But isn't that something
And
too along the lines with the the daily inventory, right? Because we're just
oh, yeah,
with that, we get to check ourselves all the time because and hopefully I would the way I've experienced anyway is like by checking myself on that daily basis, sometimes, and maybe more often than not, is that I can I can get ahead of it. I can truncate, the worst of what might happen if I just
good
continue to
point.
follow down that.
Good point. Yeah, that's a really good thing you brought up for people to pay attention to, which is, you know, there's precursors and behaviors that come up before you'll do the next thing that leads to the next. So if someone's like, "Oh, that's not that bad." No, it's not, but I know what happens when I do that because then it goes to
Mhm.
that. And then that goes to that, and then that's really not good. Right? So
Right. Yeah.
there's wisdom in that. There's a lot of wisdom in that, and that's also why it's great to have mentors. I have 5 amazing women in my life, and I have men in my life actually as well that are empowered and who have working knowledge with, spiritual tools. So, it's so great to run things by people because my perspective on things isn't always the same when I say it out loud.
Isn't that weird? I know. It's exactly
I'm like, "Wait, that sounded so much different in my head." Like, night and day. I don't even know how that came out, right? And a lot of times, we can laugh at ourselves, right? Like, when you say
Yeah.
your fear out loud, it's some of our fears are funny. It's like, "Oh my god," like, "How was I thinking that?" That's up because you've especially the ones that we've already overcome, we can laugh at them. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, "Oh, there's that again." Like, so, okay, yeah, no, we're not. Yeah. And honestly, Debbie's one of my people, as
Mhm.
you know her.
She's
And,
amazing, yes.
and she's not 12 step, although she does go to Al-Anon, that's not true. But, you know, um, she has a lot of good and she's done so much therapy
Yeah.
recently in her life and so much schooling, and she actually ran a workshop here about, you can't spark without your dark, like getting in touch with, your shadow work, and so that you can shine bright like a diamond. And I love that she does that. She inspired me to write my nurturing card deck. So I have my first published literature out there. There are these beautiful cards, and they speak to every aspect of nurturing in a holistic way, the emotional, the
Right.
physical, the joy and well being, the cognitive, and uh, all just like all 5, right? So the physical. So you can pick 3 things, that you want to dedicate yourself to doing, action steps to support it on these little cards and or others, but it gives you the lines and it gives you examples on the cards, like what you could
Beautiful.
do to cultivate in those areas, right? So it's kind of a fun, like nurturing project, so to speak. We did it
So
in
how does somebody get to those to be able to buy a deck or get a hold of
Oh,
a deck?
I don't know. I mean, I was selling them for so inexpensive. I was selling them for like $11.11, and they're really pretty with like
But
so why
where could they pick them up?
my TikTok store has them,
Okay.
which is, Lotus Garcia, that's my dog's name, with a number 1. Or you could find me through my name, Michele Garcia, with Michelle with 1 L, Michele. And then also you can just contact me. My phone number all over Google. If you Google Cielo Sober Living and just call me, just like, "Michelle, will you send me a deck of your nurturing cards?" It comes in a pretty gold bag with a bow, and then you can just have a deck.
Well, we'll make sure and put those, connections in the show notes as well. Well, listen, Michelle with 1 L, that's great. I wanna,
Have I told you
that's
how
beautiful.
much I love you?
Yes,
Thank you
that's
for having me.
Well, I don't wanna we're not gonna drop you right now. This is I wanna come in, there's a few closing
More?
questions that I would
Okay,
like to
okay.
ask
It's
you. Like,
11:28. Okay, okay, we can do
well,
this.
first off is like, what is really turning you on right now in your work, in your spirit or
So when for me, it's whatever is the need, right? So lately, what I've noticed is there's been a big call for people to want to release weight and then stay in a space of being healthy in their body. And I know a lot of people are turning to, especially people who have, you know, really grossly overweight, have gotten medicines to help them get a
Mhm.
jump start on it with Ozempic and all this other stuff. But you know, at some point you want to learn to integrate a way of living because it really comes down to living a way that's healthy so that you can sustainably live a comfortable weight without using food to self-medicate or having images of yourself that are just not loving.
Right.
And you have to see yourself in the loving essence. And in that, you'll be able to release the weight. When we learn to love ourselves, that's when we release the weight because we're not self-medicating anymore, or vomiting or whatever your thing is that you're doing to try to control, right? We talked about control. We want to surrender so that we can become
Yeah.
equipped with more healthy ways to live a healthy situation. So I think I've been coaching people on that. And I find it rewarding because people are getting sustainable results. And it's something I'm really passionate about because I have extensive recovery. Um, and I mean, I continue to, cultivate that. I love doing hot yoga. I love going on hikes. I love, saunas. I love cold plunges. I love meditating when I'm hiking. I love doing all the fun stuff, all the different areas of emotional well-being that we can do together, all the different areas of, cognitive stimulation, learning new things to help us, like, intermittent fasting or, abstaining from certain things that are triggers, integrating healthier choices,
Right.
whatever, and I meet people where they're at with their bodies and their types and their demographics and their age. And so there's so many different variables that help me, discern and I'm really good at it, so that's kind of been, as you put it, turning me on. I'm getting good results with people, and I like that. That makes me happy,
Yeah, yeah.
and I know that they're not having any, like, bad side effect thing, weird thing happening because it's, no drugs involved with what I do, so
Good.
no self-medicating,
Yeah, I
just
mean,
some
it's a huge issue. Michelle, so before we go, just let everybody know how they can connect with you to support your mission and support,
oh, thank
Cielo
you.
Sober Living.
Yes. So I own a 12-bed residential co-ed sober home for recovery from alcohol and drug addiction that I have people who stay with me 4 or 5 years and some 3 months, 2 months, whatever I meet people where they're at. And I have a great staff of people that are loving. You can reach them or myself. Actually, usually I'm the point of contact that can guide you, but I live on site, so I'm pretty hands-on. 310-968-0993 is my personal cell. There's a toll-free number on my website that actually lands to my cell number, but, and that's available on the, closoberliving.com. Then I own a nonprofit that does spiritual retreats and podcast shows and outreach in different ways with counseling services, as I just touched on. That's, closf.org. The toll-free number is on that. It is the very
Okay.
same one. So if you can't find me on one, I'm all over Google.
You're all over the place.
I also own Active Recovery Solutions for 15 years. And that is a consulting service that I have, which helps businesses. Like I told you, I license centers for treatment, and I can help staffing. I can help with interventions, case management, spiritual workshops, and those are some of the fun things that I've gotten to do for a lot of years. And I can help people start their own sober living, which I've done for free a lot. Um, but it's really not free because God blesses me with so much. I'm super, super thankful. It's a difficult time in the world right now, for some people, but I'd like to make it easier with what what we're doing in our conversation, James. So thank you for allowing this, creating a space basically so people can talk about things that are enriching, you know, enriching lives.
Well, this is definitely, a pleasure and a passion of mine, and something that I've been so grateful and blessed with being able to talk to so many folks like yourself,
Nice.
and it's been, and again, it's uh, expanded my own worldview and my heart, and also on a professional level, just how I see and work with other people. So, thank you as well. And
Thank
with
you for
that,
that.
Michelle, I- we are going to bring this to a close. It's so good to see you today. Thank you so
Thank
much for
you.
being on the show.
Likewise. It's been an honor, really. I think we went over, but hey, it's all good.
There's no over.
I love it. Perfectly.
We'll see you. Take
Perfect.
care.
Big love.
Bye bye.
Namaste.